So cider, you've heard of Cider with Rosie. This is Cider with Joe, and I'm joined in the studio by Dr. Nevin Stewart and also by Nick Macduff, who have had a journey into cider. It reminds me a little bit of sort of, I think, I was trying to think earlier on, I think it's the film version of Bless This House, when Sid James and Terry Scott blow the shed up when they're trying to make some sort of local brew. And when I heard you two guys were coming on, immediately I thought of that. But hopefully they won't be blowing the studio up, or indeed blowing up Merris Wood later on. I'll tell you what the connection is there. But nice to see you both in the studio with your cider. And so this is cider produced on the domestic front that any of us could do. I can remember when I was a little boy, my father went through a phase of making wine. Most of it was pretty horrific. But then brew your own seemed to go off the radar a bit. But this is proper drinkable cider, as we're about to find out. How long ago, I'll start with you, Nick, how long ago did your partnership in cider begin?
This was autumn 2011. My apple trees generally produce a very good crop of apples, and for all the years we've lived in Guildford, that's to say 17 years now, most of the crop has just gone to compost.
Right.
Because you can't give the apples away. Even everybody's got an apple tree around where we live, so you're lumbered with all these apples. You can't store them unless you store them in very specific conditions. So what you can't immediately use or freeze, obviously there's a capacity limit on what you can actually freeze, just went on the compost heap, and this just seemed a terrible waste.
Yes,
so,
most definitely.
When Nevin came up with the idea, why don't we try and make some cider out of them, I was quite game to try it. I didn't have great hopes. I thought, I'm not sure this is going to work, but we'll give it a spin.
Yeah. And so, did you like cider? Do you, Nevin? Was that the thinking behind that? Was you thought this would be good? Had you tried it before? I mean, you've got a job that suggests that you might know something about sort of chemicals or something like that. You've got a doctorate. Is that a connection?
I enjoy a drop of cider, Joe. No. Doubting that. Yes, it was a challenge that Nick presented because none of the members of the Solonian Road Retired Gentlemen's Walking Club wanted to fork out any money on doing this, so the traditional route of pulp and press was denied us because it's simply so expensive to get into it properly.
This isn't going to involve bare feet, is it?
No, our daughter Jane offered up her small domestic kitchen juicer, and we thought, well, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
So 3 of us spent 3 hours juicing apples through this machine, and we ended up with 3 gallons
of juice.
Yeah. Which we then fermented out eventually to cider. However, we realised that with 300 kilograms of apples available, this just wasn't practicable. At that point, Nick had a discovery.
I went to a charity shop looking for something totally different and happened to spot a really heavy-duty juicer on the shelf.
Really?
Yes. And so I didn't buy it on the spot. I came home and rang Nevin and said, I've been to this shop and there's this really robust looking machine.
This is sort of industrial looking.
Almost that size. And why don't we think about buying that and giving that a try?
Okay. And I mean, there was a reluctance to outlay any cash, but what sort of money were we talking for this industrial sized juicer?
£15.
£15, okay. But still, money's money. 15 quid. Okay, so you got it home. And how much easier did the process become with? Has it got a name? It should have a name, really.
The juicing machine. It's a Breville.
Yeah, it was a Janie.
I thought maybe you'd give it a name like Janie or
I see.
Lucky or something.
Yes, you did.
Well, we called it Anthony.
Anthony. Okay. So you got Anthony home, and how much easier did Anthony make the process?
Oh, about 100 times easier. That's probably not much of an exaggeration. I mean, Nevin could give you more specific data than I can.
The efficiency was transformed.
This bumper crop, though, we should point out, this wasn't repeated last year. This was just, you sort of biannual almost. But
I fear so. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping last year was an off year because we got precisely 7 apples off a tree that had the previous year given 300 kilos.
Okay.
However, with the aid of Guildford Market and eBay, I was able to buy a whole range of different juicers and test them out just to see what these machines can do.
And people might think, well, juice is juice. Are you looking for a specific kind of juice to make cider? Does it have to be finer? Does it have to be thicker? Should it have no bits in it? Or is it just really the productivity of the machine?
Well, the clue's in the name that we've given to the method, which is juice and strain.
Right.
So the juicer does the juicing bit,
yeah.
And then we have a bucket with a straining bag in it, which does the straining. And the "and" is provided by this piece of technology, which is the juice containment and delivery adapter.
It's quite a smart-looking bit of kit that you've got there.
I mean, some people have described it as a hose,
yes.
but I think that diminishes.
It does, the importance of this in the process. Okay, so we've got the juice, we've got Anthony on board now, we've done juicing experiments. What happens next? I mean, you know about cider. There's a whole loads of different types of cider. What were we looking for? Were we looking for a session cider? Were we looking for a strong cider? Were we looking for one of those ones that goes cloudy in the glass and makes you feel a bit wobbly before you've even sipped it? All of the above.
We used the natural juice sugars and a commercial yeast, which is actually a champagne yeast. And its simplicity itself, add the yeast to the juice, make sure it's in a demijohn, sealed from air, because air is
l'ennemi mortal du cidre, as the French say.
I was just about to say that, actually, yeah. So tight from air, and then you leave it.
3 weeks, and what we've found is that our cider's clear, they call it gin clear, crystal clarity.
Oh.
And there is a technical reason for that, I believe, which is the very short contact time between the apple juice and the pulp in the juicer, because the juice goes one way,
yep.
The pulp goes the other, so there is no opportunity for pectin to be extracted from cell walls. We're getting into chemistry here.
There we are, getting quite complicated now, yeah.
And pectin, unfortunately, in apple juice, once the fermentation proceeds and the alcohol content goes up, the pectin solubility goes down, and that is how you get your familiar cloudy scrumpies.
Yeah, which can be lethal. What sort of percentage then are we looking at with this?
6.5% ABV.
Right, that's quite a healthy proportion.
However, to some batches, cider is after all apple wine.
Yes.
It's not at all like brewing beer. I added various quantities of white sugar and took the alcohol by volume all the way up to 15%.
Really? Good gracious. Well, should we open a bottle? You have some bottles of it here. I have to say, it looks suspiciously like a well-known beer that we've got here, because you've recycled the bottles. So.
This is entirely a green process.
Green process, but the sacrifice was made because you obviously had to drink the beer in the first place.
Well, it's a sacrifice we can put up with.
Yeah. All in the line of duty.
I'll just crack this bottle conditioned one.
Okay.
And I've got a tea towel over the top because some of these have gone off like fire extinguishers.
Oh, really?
And I wouldn't want to ruin your electronics.
No, John the engineer will have a complete meltdown if we spill it everywhere. Oh, that one's okay. John, go back to your room, you're fine. Okay, so we're pouring this out.
And I hope you can see it is crystal clear.
It is, look at that. Wonderful. So is there a way to taste cider? Is there, because different ways of tasting wine and whiskey and...
Well, they do talk about cider having a mouth, so if you hold it before you swallow it.
It's got a lovely bouquet though, isn't it? It really has. Fantastic. And is it turned out as good as this the first time?
It did, and it's improved with aging. So this is the 2011.
Cheers then.
Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Oh, lovely. Okay, I'll have a little sip of this then. This is from that bumper crop. Wow.
As our friend Amance would say, that'll work.
Yes.
Definitely. No, it's got a very crisp, and it does taste a bit like champagne, actually.
Yes, it does, in a strange way.
It does, doesn't it? It's got a very, very crisp, dry feel to it, though, on the palate. Obviously, I'm not swallowing this in case our boss is listening, and I'm spitting it out into a jar.
Well, this is what's being offered first this evening at Merriswood College.
So let's talk about what's happening this evening, because this proved to be so successful. You thought, well, there must be other people with apple trees who are in despair and are composting needlessly tons and tons of apples. So you you're going to teach people how to do it.
That's right. We're going to show them how easy it is to use this method. They don't need to go out and buy a great heavy press that has the weight of an old-fashioned mangle, which they have to keep outside the back door, or a scratting machine that chops up the apples. All they really need is a juicer, a hose and a bucket, basically.
And of course the juicer can be used year-round.
For other juicing, quite.
I'm absolutely astonished that it's as crisp and clear as that. Is there camaraderie within cider brewing? Have you showed it to sort of other people who do it? Have you got any sort of feedback? I mean, obviously the feedback is you like it and you brewed it, so that'll work, as you say. But
I'm afraid we've rather selfishly hogged it.
have you really? I see. Okay,
but not tonight.
Not tonight. No. And so you said it better with age. What sort of time period could it keep for? Would it go off?
The bottle conditioned, the carbonated cider, you should be looking at 2-3 years.
Really? Well, that's absolutely fantastic.
Unless the lure of the bottle gets to you first.
No, well, there is always that then. So people come along this evening, 7:30 at Merest Wood, and will you be taking all the kit down, the Anthony and the hose? I've forgotten what you call it now. You take all of that along.
Yes, the people carrier is going to be full to the brim.
Yeah.
And for anyone who wants to come along, that's a contact telephone number.
Okay, so this is, if you telephone Guildford YMCA 01483 448784, then you can reserve a place, 01483 448 784. And you'll both be there? You'll be there as well, Nick,
Indeed,
for taking knowledge, yes? And what about the reaction of friends and family? You say you hogged it all, but have you got a bit of feedback from them?
Oh yes, I've certainly distributed a few bottles to my family members, and I've got positive feedback. Nobody said they don't like it so far.
Well, I can't believe how close to champagne it is. It's absolutely fantastic. Really, really is. I wish we hadn't taken our apple tree out now. We've got a conference pear tree. They do perries, don't they? Pear cider.
They do, yes.
So
yes.
Maybe we could
give it a try.
Give it a try, yeah. And the consistency of the product is pretty on. Bottle from bottle, it doesn't vary too much.
No, it doesn't. No.
You mentioned there that strength-wise we're going from sort of 6.5 up as far as 15, but you can have some control over that.
It depends how much sugar you want to add.
Yeah. Does it alter the taste tremendously if it's much stronger? Do you find that around 6.5 it's sort of more balanced or crisper? Or
I prefer this 6.5%
Me too.
product.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, look, good luck tonight, guys. YMCA, Chris at YMCA is the person to get in touch for. And this is a free event?
Free event.
Free event. So if you want to go along, 01483 448 784, ring Chris at the YMCA. It's a free event. It's a breakthrough method on producing cider at home, and you're hoping to raise some funds for the Guildford YMCA through doing this.
There will be a retiring collection.
Retiring collection at the end of the evening. So if you're free, Merest Wood is the location for it. 7:30, go along. And should they bring apples? What do they need to bring?
Themselves.
Just themselves.
And their wallets.
And their wallets for the retiring collection at the end.
And there will be an opportunity to bid for second-hand juicers that I've evaluated.
Okay. That would be suitable for this.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. I can't finish this because I've got to do the rest of the show, and
I'll drink it.
Oh, that's very decent of you, Nick. Yeah, I thought you might. Dr. Niven Stewart and Nick Macduff, thank you so much for coming. Nice to meet you both.
Pleasure.